He came from a small island. He challenged kings and empires. Today, we tell the story of the man who forced Europe to its knees, Napoleon Bonaparte. But before he became emperor, he was just a poor boy from Corsica, vowing that the world would remember his name. He grew up in the fire of revolution, as Paris burned and the old world collapsed. And he chose to build a new one. His strategies became legend. His enemies fled. His armies triumphed, even when victory seemed impossible. But his rise became his curse. He crowned himself emperor and dared to challenge destiny itself. What does it take for a boy from a rugged island to rise higher than kings, to seize crowns with his own hands, and to leave his name carved into the memory of mankind? Napoleon Bonaparte was not simply a general. He was ambition, walking in human form. His life was a storm, glorious, violent, and unforgettable. He reshaped nations, rewrote laws, and bent the world toward his will. Yet his brilliance carried within it the seeds of destruction. This is the story of how one man became Emperor of Europe, and how he fell. Napoleon was born on August 15, 1769, in Ajaccio, Corsica. His family, of Italian noble origin, was proud but not wealthy. Corsica itself had just been annexed by France, and Napoleon grew up in a land torn between local identity and French authority. At 9, he was sent to military school in France. There, his Corsican accent marked him as foreign. Boys mocked him. Teachers underestimated him. He was small, awkward, solitary. But he possessed something more important than charm: relentless drive. He threw himself into books, mathematics, artillery science, history. He memorized the campaigns of Alexander the Great, Hannibal, and Julius Caesar. He learned that wars are not won by size, but by speed, calculation, and will. Imagine a lonely boy, ridiculed for his accent, whispering in the dark, "One day, I will command nations." That was Napoleon. By 16, he became a lieutenant of artillery. By 24, he was already a brigadier general. His rise was meteoric. The French Revolution erupted in 1789. The monarchy fell, aristocrats fled, and chaos reigned. For many, it meant ruin. For Napoleon, it was opportunity. In 1793, royalist rebels, backed by the British Navy, seized the port of Toulon. Napoleon, then only 24, devised a daring artillery plan. His guns forced the British fleet to retreat. Toulon was saved. 2 years later, in 1795, Paris was threatened by another royalist uprising. Napoleon was tasked with defending the new government. He used grape shot against the crowds, breaking the revolt in minutes. He became famous overnight. Revolutions devour their children. Napoleon used their chaos as fuel. In 1796, Napoleon took command of the army of Italy. His soldiers were starving, barefoot, poorly equipped. But Napoleon gave them fire through words. "Soldiers, you are hungry and naked. The government owes you nothing. I will lead you into the most fertile plains in the world. There you will find honor and riches." At Lodi, at Arcole, at Rivoli, he defeated Austria's forces with brilliance and speed. He turned small armies into giants by moving faster, thinking sharper, daring more. In a matter of months, he transformed from an unknown general into a legend. Crowds cheered. Newspapers praised him. People whispered, this man was not just a general, he was destiny. In 1798, Napoleon looked east. Egypt was the gateway to British trade with India. He imagined himself as a new Alexander, linking France to the mysteries of the Orient. At the Battle of the Pyramids, he crushed the Mamluks, declaring, "From the heights of these pyramids, 40 centuries look down upon you." But at sea, disaster struck. At the Battle of the Nile, Admiral Nelson destroyed the French fleet, trapping Napoleon. He brought scientists who mapped lands and discovered the Rosetta Stone, the key to ancient Egypt. Even in retreat, Napoleon crafted legend. France was collapsing under weak government. In 1799, Napoleon returned, seized power in a coup, and established the consulate. At 30 years old, he was first consul, the leader of France. He reorganized the nation. Banque de France, lycées, Concordat, Napoleonic Code. In 1804, in Notre Dame Cathedral, the Pope prepared to crown him emperor. Napoleon seized the crown and placed it on his own head. Between 1805 and 1809, Napoleon's genius reached its peak. At Austerlitz, he crushed Austria and Russia in a single day, striking like lightning. He placed family on thrones across Europe and spread the Napoleonic Code. But to strangle Britain, he built the continental system, which hurt Europe itself. In Spain, guerrilla warfare bled his armies. The Peninsular War became his Spanish ulcer. Napoleon married Josephine de Beauharnais, a widow with charm and influence. He adored her, writing passionate letters. "I awake consumed with thoughts of you." But she failed to give him an heir. In 1810, he divorced Josephine and married Marie-Louise, daughter of the Austrian emperor. She gave him a son, Napoleon II, the King of Rome. In 1812, Napoleon assembled over 600,000 soldiers and invaded Russia. At Borodino, the bloodiest battle of the age, tens of thousands died. Napoleon entered Moscow, but the city burned. He waited for peace. None came. Winter descended. Hunger and cold slaughtered his army. Of 600,000 men, fewer than 100,000 returned. In 1813, at Leipzig, Austria, Strussia, Russia, and Sweden united against him. Over 500,000 soldiers clashed in the Battle of Nations. Napoleon was overwhelmed. In 1814, the Allies marched into Paris. Napoleon abdicated and was exiled to Elba, a small island. In February 1815, Napoleon escaped Elba, landed in France, and gathered followers. Soldiers sent to arrest him joined him instead. He marched to Paris and regained the throne without a battle. Europe trembled. June 18, 1815. Near Waterloo, Napoleon faced Wellington and Blücher. Rain turned ground to mud, delaying artillery. French cavalry charged, but were repelled. Then the Prussians arrived. Napoleon sent the Imperial Guard, but they were defeated. Waterloo was not just a defeat, it was the end of the empire. Napoleon fled to Paris, but there was no hope. He abdicated again and surrendered to the British. They sent him to St. Helena, a remote island in the South Atlantic. On St. Helena, he became a prisoner of memory. He dictated his memoirs, comparing himself to Caesar and Alexander, shaping his legacy. On May 5, 1821, at the age of 51, Napoleon Bonaparte died. Some say of stomach cancer, others whisper of poison. Napoleon's Napoleonic Code still shapes laws today. He reorganized education, finances, and administration, allowing talent, not birth, to rise. But his wars claimed millions of lives. Cities were ravaged, dynasties destroyed, borders redrawn. Was Napoleon a liberator or a tyrant? The truth is both, and that is why his story endures. Napoleon crowned himself emperor, yet preached equality. He spread revolutionary ideas, yet built an empire. Napoleon once said, "Impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary of fools." Perhaps that was his truest legacy,